Blessings to your family. Welcome to Pastor Jerone TV. I'm your host, Pastor Jerone Davidson, and today is another blessed day to be walking with God and to be in the light of the Lord. And I'm excited to be able to teach with you and share with you today. And I found something very nice I wanted to share with you, and it's not going to be long, just quick. And I like to study back and forth between the Old Testament and the New Testament throughout the day, and I use a little gadgetry when I'm out and about and busy doing what I'm doing. And so I found something early this morning that I thought I would share with you about how to get Jesus to commit to you. And it's just something real quick here. And we'll find this word in John chapter 2, verse 23 through the close of the chapter. Check this out. Now when Jesus was in Jerusalem at the Passover, in the feast day, many believed in his name when they saw the miracles which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself unto them, because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. What was in man is that people can believe on you one day and the next day have no faith in you at all. People could say they love you today and then hate you tomorrow. And the only reason that these people had belief in him was that they saw the miracles that he did. And Jesus would not commit himself to that type of faith. Does that type of faith bring people to salvation? I believe it brings them to the door of salvation, but not all the way in. And I believe that there are so many people that are so close to salvation. They're so close to knowing the Lord. They're so close. They're going to church. They have a heart for it, but they just want God, for God to do something for them. Jesus could not commit himself to that, because sometimes God in his sovereignty will withhold things from us for his own divine purpose. It doesn't mean that God's not answering prayer. It doesn't mean that you're not having faith. It just means God has a different purpose for you, and he has a reason for it. And if you really had faith in him, you'd hold on until breakthrough comes. But Jesus did not commit himself to these people because he knew what was in them. Now, Jesus is looking for the kind of love and the kind of belief in him that is there with him, whether God gives you a dime or put a check in the mail, or whether God opens up great doors and blesses you with a great ministry or not. It doesn't matter any of that. That God wants to commit himself to people who simply want him. People who hunger for him. People who thirst for him. People who want God's righteousness. People who pray for God's kingdom to come. Not my will, your will be done. Not my kingdom, but your kingdom come in all of its glory. Those type of people tend to get God to commit to them. God doesn't commit himself to people with fling faith. You know, you believe today only because God is sending the fishes and the loaves. You believe in the day only because you see so many friends and you have so many connections. But what happens when you lose the friends and when you lose connections? You're only happy with God now, and you can believe in God now because your health is good and your family's all right and everything is going good. But what happens when your faith, your health goes south, and when your family breaks apart? Will you hold on then? Will you have faith then? Jesus is not going to commit himself to weak faith. He's not going to commit himself to the type of faith that only needs to see something tangible. It was well said by a theologian. I forget his name. I'm sorry, I forget his name. If I find it, I will connect it at the bottom, and I would like to give people credit for their quotes. He said that when man starts to not believe in God, they start to trust in miracles. That's a mindful. Check it out. Because man will travel all the way to the moon to look at God's miracle and to examine the miracle, instead of just staying here on earth and falling on his knees right here and believe in God. People will travel around the world to follow a faith healer, to see God do something, instead of searching the scriptures where God wants them to be healed and sitting right there and trusting God and falling in love with God. people would love to seek miracles. And when they lose faith in God, they start having faith in miracles. And then they want to go to see the great pyramids, and they want to go see all of the great wonders to prove that God exists. But when you love God, when you have faith in God, and when you believe in Him, you don't have to travel any further than this book right here. And you sit here and you fall in love with God. God isn't looking for people who want Him for things. God wants people to want Him because He's God. And when you can want God and fall in love with God just because He's God, not because of how much He's blessed me and how much He's given you and me, but you want God just because He's God, He'll commit to you. God will commit to those who are committed to loving Him, His person. David says something. He says, as the deer panteth after the brook, so doth my heart pants after you. Powerful. So let us fall in love with God, and God will commit to us. Be blessed. Powerful. That's powerful. That's powerful.